So, hearing Dr. McGuire speak today, it was very humbling to see the progress that we've made in the treatment of the spine in the setting of trauma. And if there's one thing I learned from all those talks is you need to continue advancing. And so I think with the emergence of MIS technology and techniques, it is an essential part of managing spine trauma, and it really needs to be incorporated with how we do things. And so trauma could be very debilitating. It's often associated with extensive soft tissue injuries. Patients often cannot get out of bed, and pain control is a challenge. When you're doing open procedures, there's often the risk of blood loss. Patients are often in poor health. You have the elevated risk of anesthesia, and therefore minimizing further damage to the soft tissue is imperative. And MIS could help achieve all of these goals. And so what is MIS? So actually, I did 6 months with Neil Anand, and he loves kind of harping the concept of MIS. And it essentially is minimizing our soft tissue footprint using the natural planes of the anatomy, and really be as respectful of the patient's anatomy as reasonably possible. And so that includes shorter constructs as well as motion preservation when possible. And so traditional percutaneous fixations, the pros of it, you respect your soft tissue, you could achieve appropriate fixation, there's less blood loss, and there's less pain. However, there's an argument that you have less powerful reductions, you have no direct decompression with purely percutaneous techniques, and you can't get a fusion, as Jens kind of mentioned before. You need to open to get the fusion. And so I'll go through a few cases here to help illustrate some of these concepts and how incorporating MIS could help address some of these cons. And so let's start out with a simple percutaneous case. This is the patient I presented earlier, 19-year-old female, status post-motor vehicle crash. She has this flexion distraction injury, and so she was fixed percutaneously. The tension band was then restored, and here you could see how she healed nicely. And then we could remove the hardware and restore her motion. This is kind of the classical MIS indication. Okay, but this has already been established. Where do we go from here? What else could we do with MIS? And so you could do hybrid situations. You could do a mini open for decompression in the case of a patient who has some deficits. You could do mini fusions. You could, using minimally invasive techniques, you could shorten your constructs, whether by doing a lateral corpectomy or, again, doing selective fusions and then removing part of your construct down the road. And there are other motion preservation techniques that I'll go over soon. And so, Ashraf, do you want to do this case?
So this was a pretty sick gentleman with a pacemaker who had a fall at home, came in with excruciating back pain and some urinary retention and some L1 symptoms. We couldn't get an MRI scanner just because of the time at night, and it was going to be a big issue. And the rep for the pacemaker wasn't there and wasn't going to be there for a day or two. And so it has a B3 type injury, so a hyperextension injury in the setting of an ankylosed spine. And so the plan was to was to instrument this. And because I had enough concerns about a local compression because of the urinary tension that was new and the L1, I wanted to do a decompression too, at least at the level of the injury there. So, what? Okay, so this is sort of the approach. So for the Ank-Splon patients, I'll usually go 3 above, 3 below. So these are fluoro. And you can see there from the soft tissue shadow that we only opened from, sort of here down below. That's fine. I don't think that's going to work. So we did a mini open approach for the middle 2 screws, and then percutaneous through the, at the ends of the construct, so the 3rd level above and the 3rd level below. With these Ank-Splon fractures, it's really just 2 pieces of bone. We don't need to have screws at every level. If this was a long bone, we would. It's just that near, far. Going back to our external fixation principles, which is all our posterior. All our posterior instrumentation is essentially like an internal external fixator, and so. We did a mini open to minimize the dissection. So even though we do a decompression, we just limit the open portion to that decompression per what you can. So we're really trying to minimize the things, the unnecessary things as we approach these patients. I would look at this. I would say that this is in the spirit of MIS, but and that's really all we're going for. Okay. Okay, so this is a 49-year-old laborer who fell at work from 15 feet, had this burst fracture. You could see some height loss, some comminution. He was neurologically intact. The MRI here shows disruption anteriorly. It doesn't show any PLC injury. There's no compression of the neural elements. And so we got upright x-rays. So on upright x-rays, he did not have much kyphosis, but he was having a fair amount of pain, so we kept him for pain control. So he's pretty neutral there across at the level of the injury there at L2. But he was having more and more pain. So 3 days later, this is sort of where he was at. So within 3 days, he kyphosed an additional, 15 degrees. And given his inability to get around, I felt that this was unstable per our definition. And the question is sort of what to do here. So for our burst fractures earlier, we talked about 2 above, 2 below as an option. And so at L2 in the young laborer, that would take us from T12 to L4, which is going to have a fair amount of consequence. And so the other option is our short segment with an anterior reconstruction. And so that's what I talked to him about to try to limit the number of levels. And so went in and did an L2 corpectomy. We got our cage in, and then instrumented him posteriorly. So decided to do this percutaneous. He was neurologically intact, so he did not need any sort of decompression. And with the corpectomy there, I wanted to fuse him. So even though we're doing this percutaneously, it doesn't mean we can't. We could still fuse this. So you could see in that picture there, we have the wires down after we've cannulated our pedicles. You drop a tube, set it over the facets, burr it down. You directly visualize the facets as you're burring, and pack it with bone graft. You do that at the 2 levels that we do that for. So again, that's the tube over the other facet. And this was the construct that he was left with. Initially, when I started doing this, I was wondering, are these actually fusing, or am I just messing the joint up? And so with this patient, he had some residual pain at a year, and at the facet there, you could see that there's bridging bone. So I think, in terms of the MIS principles, we try to limit the number of levels. We try to do stuff percutaneously when it's appropriate. Clearly, if this was someone who had, compression, he would need an open procedure, right? So I think we're trying to do, you just need to do what's needed for the patient. Okay. So here's a 30-year-old woman. So we talked a little bit about pelvic trauma. She had homeless, polysubstance use, had increasing pain with ambulation. And this is what she presented with. So she had a U-type sacral fracture. The transverse limb was through S1. She had about 37 degrees of kyphosis, and she's 30 years old. So the question is, what do we do? The open procedure to correct this has a high complication rate in a poor host with multiple risk factors. But 37 degrees is a lot, for someone who's young. So is there a middle ground that we can reach? Or would we just say, would we non-operatively treat this, or do we just say we're going to fix it and just accept the deformity that she has? Those are our options. Not do anything, accept what she has, or try to make it better. So when we think about reductions, we sort of think from the trauma standpoint, we try first closed reductions. If that doesn't work, we try percutaneous reductions, and then we try open reductions.
And as Ashraf mentioned earlier, when we were talking about the pelvic trauma, there's a lot of room to marry spine and trauma together. Oftentimes, he mentioned that they're not as familiar with our instrumentation, but that also goes both ways, and you'll kind of see what we ended up doing.
Yeah, so I think going into the surgery, we decided that we're absolutely not going to open this up, given her risk factors. She probably, and the morbidity with that. So we were trying to maximize everything that we can. So this is sort of what we ended up. So of course, at 5 days, it wasn't mobilizing. So here you see two X-fix pins. So those, the ones on the right side of the screen, those are going into, the ones that are converging towards the midline, those are going down into the S1 pedicle. Like 3 minutes. Yeah. And then you have the iliac pins, and then from there we try to get it reduced, and we'll sort of show you what this means here. So we're trying to essentially get lordosis across those pins, and then once we have, so there's the position, you sort of push them both ways, and you could see the resulting lordosis. We didn't get a full correction, but we corrected her deformity from about 40 degrees to 20 degrees. You're using the lateral floor to judge this. And now, and once you do that, you can put a transiliac transsacral screw to hold everything and exchange the S1 pedicles with the ilium screws. So for the S1 pedicles, if you're doing this, you want to get bicortical fixation. The inlet is a great way to figure, to know if you're bicortical. And there's her translation. I mean, her, so now she's at like 22 degrees, which is better than 37. And these are the incisions posteriorly. So,
and so in conclusion, opening isn't bad, but have a reason to open, have a reason to fuse, respect the natural planes and the soft tissue, preserve and restore motion when able. Thank you.
Good job. So let's hold off on questions. We'll have a lab. And are we live for the lab, Gary? Okay. Great points. Beautiful cases, by the way. Love the triangular fixation. So we'll do that later. And